All right, hello everyone. We got a new article on the website, actually a couple today, but this video is going to focus on a discovery of crucibles on Elephantine Island that show advanced metallurgy taking place in order to harden bronze. There's always been this laughing stock joke about using copper to cut stone, to cut diorite, and Uncharted X and other people talk about the Mohs scale and how it's impossible. Now, I've done a lot of research on stonemasonry and the ancient techniques that they used, but this solves a pretty big piece of the puzzle. Now, the alloy wasn't copper; it was bronze. So that's the first thing that we need to um, put to bed is that it was never really copper; it was bronze. And, somewhere along the lines, people, I assume, did say copper. I remember hearing copper, but that was before I really got into doing research. And when I got into doing the research, it more and more was emphasized that no, it wasn't copper, it was bronze. But even bronze can be, criticized for being too soft, especially pure bronze. But what this discovery shows is um, putting arsenic into the bronze alloy in order to make it a more strong and durable metal. Now, the Mohs scale, which is often quoted, is not going to sound too impressive. It goes from 2.5 to 3, but it's really the Vickers scale that is important. And there are two different alloy measuring techniques for determining the strength of a metal. And it brings the Vickers up to something like, let's see what it is. I don't want to quote precisely. Yes, 200 to 300 Vickers. And what this allows the tool to do is simply last longer. It doesn't make it as strong as iron by any stretch, but it makes it uh, more durable. But let's be clear, this is for cutting softer stone like limestone. It is not for the harder stones, but it does solve a little piece of the puzzle, which is very important. And it's remarkable that they were doing these alloys um, as far back as they were. We're talking, what dynasty was this? In the Middle Kingdom. So 2000 to 1650 BCE, BC, or however you want to say it. I go back and forth, doesn't really matter to me. I guess it depends on what the topic is. Um, Try to make it fit if something to do, perhaps discovery or whatever. I'll use to be respectful. I was raised Catholic, so but I'm also a person of science, so it doesn't offend me if you say BC. Anyways, you know, we're talking 4,000 years ago. They were making this alloy in order to strengthen their tools. Um, One of the most revolutionary things I learned from this research today is they had words for alloys. I don't know how to pronounce it, so I'm just going to say the four letters HSMN and BJA, Ja, and Ja, give a guess. And these words represented different types of alloys and different strengths and materials. Um, And the gentleman, Martin Older, who is in charge of this project, has a lot of work done on analyzing ancient copper and metallurgy and everything to do with ancient Egyptian tools in that regard. Um, and credit to him for putting some of his work on Academia EDU. Some of his books you have to buy, but he does have some papers on Academia EDU that you can read. and they're linked along with his books in the article. So they were well aware of what they were doing, and they had words for it. This is just a few examples of the glyphs that they used and heretic script to describe the different alloys and their properties. And it describes the color, even the hardness, according to his research. I came across this papyri, because it's one, in his work as well. It's called, it is, someone can correct me. Papyri, is that singular? And you're talking about one, or do you still say papyrus? Papyrus Meyer B, anyway, is what I wrote in the article. It must be what they call it. Records temple thefts at around 1100 BCE of different bronze artifacts that were stolen. And that's pretty cool, you know. I never seen anything like that. So they were tracking the artifacts that were being stolen, and they were being stolen because they were high valuable commodities. They would be resmelted into other objects and obviously made or sold for profit. The article does, want to emphasize the study of the alloys, but also point out that this isn't the only tool in their toolbox for cutting stone. And I wanted to make sure we put the fact that they made flint chisels and diorite hammerstones for working the harder stones. They had a pretty vast repertoire, different strength alloys for ornamental things and for tools, and different materials for what they were trying to cut, whether it be soft limestone or whether it be a harder stone like diorite. So if you want to go to ancienthistoryx.com and check out this article, it's got a lot of links to the papers, and you can get more in depth with the research. I just wanted to give the broad strokes here in this video and say that, I do believe that they use these materials. I am not one who believes in a ancient Egyptian lost technology for cutting stone. One of the things I point out in the article is that some of the bronze would be used with an abrasive. This is something I've talked about on other occasions and I'm well aware of, but they would use an abrasive, and the tool was just an implement to push the abrasive through the material. They used that for the saws and for the tube drills. So the tube drill is just like an anvil, so to speak, that they would press into the stone, and with the movement and the abrasive between the implement and the stone, they could work through cutting it in that manner. So check this out, ancienthistoryx.com, Ancient Egyptian Metallurgy, Alloy Tool Use and Effectiveness. Thank you, everyone.